Welcome back to the third day of this Casey Sewalong. Today we are going to be tackling the side seams. There's quite a few different options depending on if you're adding pockets or not, also shorts versus pant views. So we're going to be jumping around a lot, but I will just lead you through it all. So first we're going to be going over how to attach the side seams if you are doing the optional pockets. If you are not adding pockets to your shorts or pants, go ahead and skip ahead to the 10-minute and 54-second mark. So with right sides touching, we're going to line up the side seams with the pockets extended. Now you need to be extra careful here that the hems and the dots all line up on the front and the back. And then you're going to go ahead and you are going to pin both the side seams and the pocket edges. Now to get the pocket seam to lay correctly, it is really important that you really line up the seam where the pocket meets the front or the pocket meets the back and those dots. Now once you've done this for both sides of the shorts or pants, you're going to go over to your regular sewing machine and at a normal 1/2 inch seam allowance, you're going to stitch from the top edge down to the first dot, and then you're going to backstitch. You're going to start again at that second dot, backstitch, and you're going to stitch downward. So for the shorts, you're ending at that third dot or the hem dot, and then for the pants views, you are going to stitch all the way down to the bottom of the garment. Now just a reminder here that we attach the pockets in a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So this 1/2 inch seam allowance that we're doing here, where we're stitching the front to the back, is just inside of that 3/8 inch seam. This is intentional, and this makes sure that that pocket really stays tucked inside of the garment and doesn't flip out. So once you've done that for both sides, this is what it should look like. You can see that that stitch line, leaves the pocket opening in between where you stitched. And then for the shorts view, we ended right there at the third dot. Now we're going to go over to our sewing machine and we're going to stitch the outside curved edge, ending at the stitching line for the side seam that you just stitched. You're going to leave the top of the pocket open because that is going to be included in the waistband seam later. And this is done once again at just a normal 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, and this is what it looks like once you've stitched that pocket edge. This is the shorts view, but I did want to go ahead and also show you what it looks like for the pants view. It's essentially the same, but once again, we did stitch all the way to the bottom of the hem instead of leaving that little bit at the bottom for the side slit for the shorts views. Next, we are going to tackle the little side slit for the shorts views. So if you are sewing up the pocket option and a pants view, you can skip ahead to the 7-minute and 12-second mark. But if you're doing the shorts view with the optional pockets, let's continue here. Turn your shorts inside out, and just below the pocket, you are going to press those seam allowances open. You can see I have my shorts upside down here. It's much easier to do this maybe on the edge of your ironing board or on a tailor's hand like I'm doing here, just so that you can separate it. But as you can see, I'm pressing, the slit open and then also about 1 inch above, but then the rest of the pocket is going to be pressed towards the front. And then you're going to take those little edges of the hem and then you are going to turn those under by another about 1/4 of an inch. So you're essentially folding that seam allowance in half, and go ahead and give that a good press, and then you're going to pin those Or you can do what I'm going to do, and I like to use my disappearing glue stick here. This just really helps keep everything in place and is just a little bit less fiddly than pins when we're sewing this really small amount of fabric. Just be extra careful if you're using a glue stick that you do let the glue dry before you go over to your sewing machine so that you don't end up gunking up the inside of your sewing machine. This can be a little bit fiddly, so I'm going to go ahead and show you myself doing it again on the other side. Now then, to secure this slit, we're going to go over to our sewing machine, and we are going to just top stitch the side edges and just below the dot to secure the slit. Now, just a little tip I wanted to give you here. This is a really small section of fabric, and sometimes our machine just wants to kind of eat it. It can be tough to do this just like really kind of like fine stitching. So if your machine has a tendency to do this like mine, just take a piece of paper that's kind of on the lightweight side, or a piece of tissue paper maybe, and put it underneath your fabric when you're sewing. This is going to give the machine or the feed dogs of your machine something to grab onto, and then when you're done, it's really easy to just tear this paper off, and you're just much more likely to to do this successfully. So once again, you're just really stitching just inside that folded edge. I'm doing it from the right side of the fabric, but if it makes you more comfortable, you can also do it from the underside of your fabric. It's up to you. Now you're going to do this on both of the side seams of your shorts, and then this is what it should look like when you are done. Once again, you should be able to just really easily tear off this fabric because it's kind of perforated now from being stitched, and then you have just a nice little side slit there. Okay, next up we are going to reinforce and press our pockets. Now I like to start by just giving it a little press from the right side, just so that I can kind of visualize the pocket, make sure that everything is lined up correctly on my shorts or pants. But then really you just want to turn it inside out because we are going to deal with the side seams. Now with your garment inside out, we're going to press that pocket towards the front. Now all of the seam allowances for the pant are going to go towards the front of the pant, and then for the shorts you are pressing the seam allowances just above the slit towards the front. You're going to want to pin that top edge of the pocket so that it lays flat towards the front. It's really important that it, is laying flat. So this top little area should be just kind of an equal amount above the pocket. Make sure it's not crooked, because if it is crooked, it might not tuck into the waistband when you're sewing it, or the pocket might, peek out below the hem. So it is really important that it is laying flat. Okay, now once everything is pinned and pressed towards the front, you're going to turn your shorts or your pants right side out, and we are going to reinforce those pocket edges with a couple of bar tacks. So we're going to make a small bar tack at the very top of the pocket opening and another one at the very bottom of the pocket opening. That's going to go through all of the layers, including the seam allowances and the pockets. It's also going to help that pocket, stay pressed towards the front. If you want, you might want to just practice your settings of a bar tack on a little scrap piece of fabric first, just so that you know the settings that you like. But for me and a bar tack, I usually do the zigzag stitch on my machine with a width of between 2 and 3 millimeters, and then a short length of, somewhere around 0.5 millimeters. But once again, you can do it kind of a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller if you prefer. Okay, and this is what it should look like when you're done. Now, if you are adding pockets to your shorts or pants, you are done for today. We're going to move on now to the no pocket option. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to finish those seam allowances separately of the front and the back. So I'm going to serge. You can use pinking shears, you can zigzag stitch them. The important thing is that you're not actually trimming down the seam allowance when you're doing this, you're just finishing them. You should note here that if you are sewing up the shorts views, the hem is already finished on this and you are still finishing the entire seam allowance. If you are sewing up the pants views, then the hem is not finished yet, but you are still going to do the entire edge of each side seam. Okay, it should look something like this when you are done. Now, with right sides touching, we're going to match the front to the back along those side edges. Go ahead and pin them from top to bottom. For the shorts views, we're going to stitch from the upper edge down to that hem dot, and then you're going to back stitch. For the pants views, you're going to stitch the side edges from the top all the way to the bottom, back stitching at both edges. And this, of course, is all at a normal 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, and this is what it should look like now. Once again, if you are doing the shorts view, there is still a little slit opening here that we'll finish in a minute, but for the pants, it will be stitched all the way to the bottom. Now, for both the pants and the shorts, we're going to go ahead and we are going to press the entire side seam allowance open. And if you are sewing up the pants view, you are finished for today. If you are sewing up the shorts view with no pockets, we are going to continue here and we are going to finish out by sewing that little side slit. Now with those seam allowances pressed open, you are now going to fold in the edges of the hem around that slit by about 1/4 of an inch, or just like kind of folding them in half, and give them a good little press. And then you're going to either pin them or do like I do, and you're going to use a glue stick that really helps to just kind of like keep everything in place when you're sewing, and it's a little bit less fiddly. Just make sure if you do this that you let the glue dry before you sew on your sewing machine so you don't gunk it up. We're going to top stitch around those sides and the very top of the slit, right at kind of that dot for the hem. Now, lots of times machines have a hard time, you know, sewing these small little bits of fabric. So my tip is that if you just get a lightweight piece of paper or tissue paper and put that under your slit when you're sewing it, it's going to give your machine something to grab onto, and you're just going to be more successful sewing it. So there's my little tip for the day. Okay, and this is what it should look like. That paper, if you used it, should just tear off really easily because the stitches perforate the paper. And then at this point, I like to give everything a nice little press. We are finished for today. Come back tomorrow and we are going to finish off our Casey shorts or pants. We're going to attach the waistband. We're going to add the buttons. We will hem the pants. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments.